So here we go. I'm gonna keep working on the stuff that I was working yesterday. And then I'm gonna use this stuff to study the Jinja2 templates and try to add features here. I was trying to add the flag variable of stream that allows me to connect the inputs here, the first nodes. There's also another thing that I realized as I was trying to do that, is that all of these nodes have duplicate nodes on them because of the name stuff that I did yesterday. So here you have the tasks, and usually they're all gonna have the same node twice. So you have util tasks here. Not all of them, but some of them. Or maybe I'm tripping. But I remember seeing some on some of them, on some graphs. I'm not sure if it was this one. But it's probably because of this loop here outside. But I think it's not that big of a problem to worry about that much, because it's not gonna make the graph lose the meaning that I want to have. It's just gonna have more. It's gonna make the graph more crowded than it needs to be. So maybe something that is worth trying to solve. But I think I'm not gonna focus on that now. I'm gonna leave it like this, and then maybe in the future I work on it. And now I'm gonna see how I can solve this stuff. I put a flag variable here, language connect. Then pass it to true and make it false or none as default. Then I changed the name of the first node, and that's why I'm getting this problem now. I changed it to this because I thought that, well, the easiest way to do what I wanted to do yesterday is probably to change the name of this node, and then I can just filter the nodes after the network is done for this pattern that I put here. And the ones that have this, I'm gonna append them to this other list, and then I'm gonna use this list to create the edges. And it works now. It wasn't working because I wasn't using the ID here, and then it wasn't recognizing, because I didn't know this before, but now I know. To do edges on the Networkx, you have to pass the ID of the nodes and not the nodes themselves. And I was trying to pass the nodes before, so it wasn't working. So then I figured out that I have to pass the IDs, because this function activates the get nodes function on the Pyvis Networkx, and that function checks if for the node ID, the nodes list, just see if the nodes exist. So then when I did this change, I also had to change here this stuff. I had to put another connection here because it was giving me a problem, which essentially is this mistake that I'm getting here now. And then to solve this, I put this thing inside of this else block here. So I'm getting the edges every time. But if I did it like that, then it doesn't do what I wanted to do. It gives me this graph here, which makes these nodes separated from the other ones, which is obviously not what I want to do. I just want to create an extra connection between them and not screw up the connection that was there before. So I think I'm gonna test like this again, which is essentially passing this one to here. I'm gonna run this and I'm gonna see. I'll probably get the same graph, but I'm just wanna be sure. I think I have to reload here. And I know the Jinja2 stuff is gonna be difficult, so I'm gonna do all 3 graphs that I used so far. Yeah, I'm getting the same stuff. I'm gonna try to use them all to see, to explore the library, just see if I can understand what's going on. I think I already understand a little bit. Jinja2 is a template for Python that creates a standard JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, depending on how you do it. But I'm not sure yet how, when you pass the template, what's happening behind the scenes there. I remember studying a little bit, but I still couldn't understand. So it's probably gonna take me some time to figure it out. So how the fuck I'm gonna do this? Before I did this change, I was doing like this. Because that way I create the edge outside of the statement there. Let's think about what's happening here. Oh, the other thing that I didn't solve yet is the folders thing. So I might check that as well. But I think I won't do this for now. I'm probably gonna set the Jinja stuff first. So essentially I wanna change the spy extension to capture all files. But I think all these files are gonna be in Python because they're Python libraries, so I won't need to do that to study the Jinja2. And I also changed this stuff so it's better visually. So what am I doing here? That's fucked up. So the first iteration is gonna create a folder name node, and it's gonna create this first node, and it's gonna make this edge here. But then it tries to create the edge again. Maybe if I just wrap this around the same if condition there, but do it outside this time, it works. But I feel like I'm gonna get the same problem there of that node not being connected with anything else. Yeah, so the problem is that I'm creating 2 different nodes, I think, when I do it like this. So the problem is not on the outside here. Before it was being connected because this was dirs -1. Which is the same name. So it's probably on the second iteration that it's the problem. Because I'm not connecting the dirs -1 with this node. Oh, but I'm doing the connection here, so it should be going. I'm doing the connection for the first one, but then I'm not connecting these nodes with this dirs -1. The other one, this wasn't a problem because they were the same. That's the issue here. So how can I solve this? Let me try to see if adding the condition here is gonna work. We just do it different than 0. Just because it's the simplest way I can think about it. So if it works, I don't have to spend more time on this. No existent node. Line 63. Yeah, because the node wasn't created yet. I would have to... Oh, but it should create. Oh no, I'm summing... If v bigger than 2. Bigger than 1. It's gonna be 1 here after this. Or hopefully it works. Nice, so let's see if the graph is correct. If it isn't, then I'll have to think about the node names. And now everything is wrong. There are no connections. Interesting. So I have to think a little bit more about that. Gonna turn on the fan because it's hot. So here. So what's up with this? I don't understand how the connection would be affected by this if I'm creating the node here. The folder name node. And this is gonna affect on, suppose, oh, because I'm not making the edge here. No, but I am making the edge here. This is the first edge, then this is supposed to be the second edge in the second iteration. Oh, but in the second iteration, I'm not gonna have this -1. I'm gonna have a different node. That's the problem. That's why this is not working. So it has to be... First thing that comes to my mind is changing this for if v equals 1, then I create a connection between first node and the directory. So it's confusing because I forget. It's hard to remember how OS walk works and visualize that in my mind. So I have to think about what is gonna be the top node in the second iteration. If there are more subdirectories, it's gonna be the folder name of the previous one. So it's gonna be first node folder name. Then it's gonna skip these ones in the first iteration. So this folder name is the subfolder. This is the root node. And in the second iteration, it's gonna hit the else statement here. And it's gonna create this. Oh, so I don't have the edge here. That's the problem. But then if I put the edge there, it screws up the other ones. I don't understand why it's isolating when I put the edge here. I need to think about the ways that I can kind of like run it twice in the first iteration, so that I have the specific name that I want, but doesn't screw up the other iterations that come after that. Because obviously, if I wanted to do the normal ones, then I wouldn't have this pattern here that I can use to filter out the nodes later to find the first ones. The first one. But I think what's happening here is that I'm isolating it when I put it a different name. I'm isolating it from all the other subfolders. So it runs correctly in the first subfolder. But then in the other ones, it loses the link between them. Maybe it's because of the else statement. Could be because of the else statement as well. Because now it doesn't have the name of the... So what happens on the key -2? So not gonna hit any of this because it doesn't check this, and then it's gonna come here. But now the first node of the previous iteration, which was the previous tiers -1, It's not gonna exist here. Oh, but it's gonna add the node again. It should add the node again. Yeah, but then it loses the connection, I think. But it should be hitting this spot anyway, the first iteration, because this is the first node. So I don't think the problem is here necessarily. Oh, it could be actually. Because it can create the first node in the first one, but then the second one doesn't create the link between that node and these ones here. So essentially, maybe I could make if v equals 1, then I add, but then I'll need to specify the name here, first node. Maybe if I just use the debugger to see what's going on. This way doesn't work. Oh, I think I erased the edge when I wasn't supposed to. Thank God for Control Z. Now I should create a graph that is incorrect, but yeah, the weird thing is yeah, so that's what's happening here. Because I have this first node is connected to this, but then I have the other node which is normal. But it's coming on the second iteration, so it is what I'm thinking about it, I guess. The question is, how do I capture the connection between? It's not that big of a problem if I double them, because essentially this node and this node are the same, just with different names. But I have to make this one be connected to this one at the same time that is connected to this, and this one be connected to the other ones. Because this part of the graph is normal. It's just this here that gets disconnected by that change in names there, the first iteration. It's just hard to think about it. What's going on exactly? I mean, the loop is running. Should find a way that I can make it happen. So it must be this first time here. I'm creating this node, then creating this edge. Then on the second iteration, I'm creating another node, which is supposed to be this one. So maybe if I put v equals 1 here, that sounds like an interesting solution. But then I might miss the connection on all the other ones. So I'm thinking about making if v equals 1, then there's minus 1 equals first node, equals this one. Yeah, but then it's not gonna be the same name, right? That's the issue. Because I'm thinking that this is the same name, but it isn't. It's a different name each time. There's minus 1. And maybe I can loop through the nodes that exist already and catch this one based on this, but then I think it's a very inefficient way to do it. Yeah, I think what was happening before is that you can make the same connection again with different names because the node exists. So it just captures that one. But in this way, it creates a new connection because the there's minus 1 doesn't exist. I think I should try this v equals 1 thing that I was talking about. I can also do it this using there's minus 2 because in the next iteration, probably the there's minus 1 of the previous one is going to be equal to the there's minus 2. But I feel like that's not a good way to do it. It doesn't seem very resilient. Well, maybe if I can do it the other way that I was doing before, but just create a different node and an extra connection from that node. Yeah, but I feel like I should have done this in another file. I think we're gonna do this now. Like I did on the other project. Just so if I screw things up, I can start from what I stopped before. So I think the way that I was doing things before was like this. So what's up with this? Oh. And the thing is, I have to. I actually don't need to change this because it's still gonna run. It's just not gonna find the pattern there. So that doesn't matter. Just wanna remember how I was doing before. This one. Yeah, so now I think was the way that I was doing before. It's like this. Let's see if this works. Oh, and this is the hierarchy stuff. Should make it similar to a tree. I think I'm gonna close this once. Yeah, now it seems to work, I guess. This one is separated because it is not related to the other. And these ones were connected through this. Here. Because apparently they have the same file. Maybe that's also not correct because unless, yeah. Because that should probably not be happening actually. Because they might have the same file name, but it's a different file. But it's weird because I'm making it a different name every time. So the folder names and the file names should have a unique name. So maybe that's not incorrect. It's weird because they don't have the same name. Like one is Networkx, the other is Pyvis. So the name of the connection, the file name should be study Pyvis that test. And the other one, yeah, so kind of like it is on these files here. So there's something else going on here. Yeah, and the file exists here. Study Pyvis tests. So maybe I'm doing something incorrectly there as well. Because this probably shouldn't be happening. Maybe this is happening because I'm running them all on the same net. So it doesn't separate nets and puts all of the nodes in the same thing. But it still doesn't make any sense to me because I find it hard to believe that there are two nodes there. And this one is going to this one. This one is also going to this one. Yeah, it should be the deers -1 name. Should be this edge here. It's giving me a problem. Yeah, what's probably happening is they have the same deers -1, which is test. Then it creates different connections, but with the same file. So let me think. Yeah, and this is happening because I'm running them all without separating them each on one specific instance of the Networkx class. It can't be the file name because they're not gonna have. Oh, maybe it can be actually. Yeah, if they have the same file and the same subfolder, then it's gonna create the same connection. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing actually, because yeah, it is gonna be a bad thing if I add the new features, because then how would I know which one should activate when I click in the node? It would be better if it was creating 2 different connections. But I don't think that's possible if I do them all in the same Networkx graph. Maybe there's a way to add a different ID each time, or a different title. That could be an idea. Yeah, I think that's gonna be much better actually. Hmm. So instead of putting the title, I put the name of the library. That way it differentiates each node for each library. Except the ones that I want it to be connected. Like the point of doing them all the same is not so I can connect all of them, I think. It's just so I can connect specific nodes that I want to be connected. But I don't want to lose the integrity of the information for each thing. So for instance, if I want to add the root nodes for each one and connect the root node for each one, I'm gonna be able to do that when I run multiple graphs at the same time. Because pretty much the same thing if I separate all of them and don't make any extra connections. The only difference is that I will be able to visualize all of them in the same graph instead of one by one in each graph. But so it wouldn't make sense, I think, to just do it for that. But I think it does make sense because I don't know if this is going to be useful or not, but I think it might be in the future. Let's say I want to make connections between libraries, but not lose the files. I want to be able to separate them a block by block, let's say, but I still have them in the same network, and then pick apart the different nodes or things that I can add extra edges. So I think this is a great idea, actually. I'm going to change the titles of each one. And I don't think this is going to change the connections. And then, but I still don't think that's going to solve the main thing that I'm worried about here. That I'm trying to solve, which is to capture the first node. Maybe we can do that with titles as well, instead of changing the node. Huh. Yeah, that should work, I think. But then it's gonna be the same problem, actually. Yeah, for the second problem, I don't think changing the title is gonna work, because the problem is that I want to make the connection between the first node and the other ones, and it's just working like this because in the second iteration, it's able to capture the nodes. It creates two identical nodes, but yeah, it creates only one edge. Maybe it creates two edges, but it doesn't matter because they're still connected. But if I make the first one have one name and the second one have a different name, then it's gonna split them apart, like it was on the first graph there. So the first thing, just so I can get this out of my mind, is change the name of the nodes, the title. So now I have to remember, I think it's folder path, the name of the language of each one. Yeah, folder path. Or maybe it's not folder path actually, because let me do it like this. I'm gonna print folder path. Just to see. I think this is gonna be the name. There we go. Now how I'm gonna call this name. So now I'm trying to think that how exactly I'm gonna be adding different connections in case I want to. Because if I'm gonna do it like this, then each iteration is gonna be a separate block. So if I want to change some of the nodes, specific nodes, or create different edges between them, I probably have to do it outside of this loop. It's probably the best way, now that I think about it. But then I have to think about how to capture the first, yeah. I need to be able to find a way to capture the first and the last node of each network. So each time that goes through this loop is one network. I put like this net name. I make it with this. After I change this stuff, then I'm gonna think about that other stuff. Hopefully this doesn't break anything. And we still have the ID and the label to capture them through the deers in case I want to. Oh, I can make a filter with the title, obviously. Huh. That sounds a lot more interesting actually. So I can create a list outside, filter that list through the title name, then get the indexes of the list. I'm not sure if it's gonna be in the correct chronological order. But yeah, it does matter because then I wouldn't be putting I wouldn't make the way that I was doing before, where I changed the name of the nodes, the first node. If this works, let me see first. It's not gonna break anything. Then I think about it. So apparently it works. So if this works, then I'm thinking that it might be better to just do what I talked about, which is to loop through the network outside there. Once it has done all the nodes, then I can filter by the name of the title. I think this worked. Doesn't do what I wanted to do, but it does the same thing as before. So it's working the same way, which is good. So I think I can come here and change here and do the patterns. Maybe I can even create a different function. Yeah, I can abstract this away, show another function outside of here. But I think about that later if this gets too crowded. Because then obviously in the future, if I want to do more stuff, then it's probably gonna get a lot bigger, this portion here. And there's already a lot of stuff here. So let me think. That's gonna be the name, the first name for each language. Maybe I should print leaders here and check odds. think capturing by the dir's name is probably better. But I'll print this as well. Yeah, let me run this. Also, for the Jinja, it doesn't show up because the Jinja doesn't have subfolders. It's better to do it. Yeah, but it looks like it's gonna be study slash. It's pretty much the folder path here. Yeah, let me print folder path outside. It makes sense because the first node is gonna be the parent directory, which the first index is a dot, but I'm filtering for the dot here. And then the second, because this dirs is split by this pattern, the second is always gonna be, yeah, obviously it's gonna be equal to this, the first index of this. So maybe I should be printing this instead. Oh, but actually, I wanna get to, because folder path, I'm gonna have access here to the folder path because it's the same. I'm passing through here. Folder path, then I pass here. But there's -1. I'm not gonna have access if I do it inside of this loop and outside of this. That's why I want to show access through the folder path instead of the dirs. Then finally, actually, I'm gonna do one besides the other, so it's cleaner. Yeah, so the first one, study Jinja. The node is study Jinja. And I guess the other ones don't have files. Let's see. Subfolders in the first loop. It does have files here. So why is not printing this? It should be printing study Networkx and then the name of the file. Oh, it's because when it hits, it makes +1. That's another problem that I didn't think about. Because it's looping through this first, so it's gonna hit this and then make v +1, and then it's not gonna hit this. Yeah, but the reason why it's working is because it's outside of this loop. Now I get it. Because it's still creating the edge, and since the node was added in the top, it doesn't matter. Because this node is created outside of this. regardless if it's first or not. Hmm. Maybe I thought about this when I was doing, but I just forgot. So maybe I should put a comment there. But then it's unnecessary actually to do this. No, it's actually necessary because if there are no subfolders, then it's gonna hit this, which is the Jinja case. Yeah, so now I think I'll leave it like this here then. I think the better way is to figure out how to do it through here. But I think it is working the way that it's supposed to. So yeah, I'm gonna erase this from here. Then I have to see. I don't know what actually. Now that I know the pattern there, which is gonna be study, the name of the folder, and then Jinja. Then the name of the first subfolder. There's -1. Oh, actually, I should have done here instead. I'm gonna do that now. Yes, the first one. Study Jinja, study Networkx, study Pyvis. So now I'm gonna print here folder path dot split. So it seems like it's not working. Let's see if it runs. It does run. Yeah, so I guess this is what I'm trying to get. This is gonna probably be the name of the. This is gonna be equal to there's -1. I don't understand why it's giving me this. Might be reference before assignments. But it is working, so. Or maybe I should be doing this. I should be using folder names now. Let me see what is folder name. Study. I can just do folder name / folder. But then it defeats the purpose because it's probably gonna give me the reference before assignment stuff. Because it's outside of the loop as well. Yeah. Now I'm thinking if there's a better way that I'm not gonna get this warning here, even though it's working. No. So essentially what I wanna do is figure out, I'm gonna filter by the title name of each one, which is the folder path. Yeah, I'm gonna have to use the folder path anyway because it's the one that I'm using here. The idea is to filter the net nodes, the nodes of the lists with the nodes of the main net based on the title there for each language. Yeah, but then there's also the question of how I'm gonna capture unless I pass in the names of each folder. I can create a loop again here as well. Because if I grab by title, how I'm gonna filter the list so I get because I don't want to get any specific name there. I just want to differentiate the titles, the nodes by the title, which have the folder path. Yeah, I think it's best to create a loop again. So I'm just thinking. I think for just connecting the first node, I don't need to differentiate the nets, the different graphs, but if I want to do more stuff, then I'm gonna need to do that. I'm just not sure if this is the best way to do it. Because then might be adding too many loops here. So what I'm thinking about is creating the loop here again, like this, just so I don't get this warning here. Do it like this. And maybe that's the best way, but or the only way I should say. But maybe not. Yeah. Maybe there's a better, more efficient way to do it. But I can't think about one now. Because I need to use the folder path to find the information I will need anyway. And it just occurred to me that the first node name and the net name is going to be the same. This is the same pattern there. Or maybe not, actually. Yeah, this is the backslash, so it's not going to be the same. So I'm going to pass this there. Because this one is backslash, this is... So it's not used, key. So yeah, you need to change this. I think I'm gonna do it like this. I just don't see another way. Maybe I'll think about it another way later. So now I have the title names for the nets and the root node name. Trying to think if that's the way that I did before. Because I remember, yeah, it wasn't working, so... I'm trying to remember why it wasn't working before. Do you think if this is gonna work? No. Let's see, I have this list here. Then I'm gonna loop through the nodes of the main net. Oh, so I was filtering through this. Now I remember. Yeah, that's why it's not working. So I can make if nodes ID equals to root node name, I append. Yeah, I think the only instance where I'm gonna use this net name is if I know the specific folders that I wanna make extra connections. Because then I can pass if net name equals to this. Then I use that as a filter. I can think about a more generic way of doing that. This maybe I can also create different lists, but then yes, probably doesn't work as well because you would have to create the list dynamically based on how many folders you have. So I think I'm gonna focus on this now, just to see if it works. So I'm looping through the nodes. If they are equal to the root node name, then for each folder, each directory in the parent directory, then I append to this list. Then I think I can, maybe I could do this in a list comprehension as well. It doesn't matter that much. I think I can erase this stuff that I was doing here. Then here I'm gonna loop through this list, and yeah, then I did this condition here to, so it doesn't break, because here I'm using key +1. So when it gets to the next last node, I don't want this to run because it's gonna be indexed out of range here. And then I'm creating the edge, I think. So hopefully this works. Doesn't give me any mistake. So if this works, I'm gonna stop doing this for now, and I'm gonna focus on trying to figure out the Jinja stuff. I'm gonna use this graph, the script visualization graph, and so apparently it doesn't work, and the library graph from Vyvx. So it's just giving me the same stuff. So I think I'm gonna debug this, see what's happening, see why it's not working. At least it's not giving me any mistakes, and it's giving the graph that I was getting before, which is the closest graph that I got from being correct. Oh, and it's still giving me this problem where it connects this to this one, which I don't understand why. Because now they should have different titles, so should in my mind it should create two different files that are exactly the same, or subfolders. For each net. Yeah, I don't get it. Because how is making the connection if the nodes are different? It should be a different file name, different folder name for each one. Oh, actually, it can be the same depending on the directory. If they both have the same subfolder with subfiles, if it's the same name, then the dirs -1 and the file name would be the same, but it would still have a different title. So it should be a different node. I don't understand why it's. Maybe it's because it chooses by ID, not title. So I think I'm gonna look at that first before I even go here again. I think what I'm gonna try to do is first I'm gonna see which one comes first when you're adding a node. Yeah, so first is the number ID, then is the label. But my concern is if I put the number ID as a fixed thing for each one, then it's gonna fuck up the entire graph. Yeah, they have to be unique. Or no, not globally. So the label shouldn't change anything as well. Data should be displayed when the user hovers over the node. Probably doesn't change anything as well. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to think about a different solution there. Oh, I put that nest name, obviously. Yeah. Instead of making deers -1, I just put deers -1 plus not name. Obviously, in the ID. Then they should all be different. Let's try that. How did I didn't think of that. Last deer equals f. That way I'm gonna make them all unique. Probably that name should come first. And now I change this. Put it here. Gets confusing, so I wanna be careful to not miss any of them. Otherwise, it might take me some time to figure out which one I screw up. Hopefully now we should solve that. And I think I'm gonna leave the title as that because it doesn't matter that much. And now these ones are the problem as well. I think I can make the same thing. Just to make sure. And then I do so this is the oops. This is gonna be +1. Now you should be working, I think. Hopefully. But now probably I will have to change here again. Yeah, because it's not gonna be the folder path. Or I can just change to title here. Yeah, that's a lot easier. Because the title didn't change, it's just the... And the title for each one, for the first one is gonna be unique always. The problem was just for the other future nodes based on the names. But the first one is always gonna be different. Because it's based on the name of the parent, the main folder. So now it should be working. Huh. So now it's different. But it still is connected there. This is connected to here. Yeah, but this is now is Networkx tests. So now it's more clear that this node comes from this one. So I think there it's not a problem now that they are still connected. I think this is the right way actually. I should probably go back on the other project and copy this. Because I think this is the actual right way. And the other was wrong and I just didn't realize it. Yeah, now it's also different here. Yeah, Pyvis tests. And this file calls probably Networkx tests, which returns this probably. Very interesting. Also, this calls this one. That's the neat. Why? Because the libraries are connected. So they both have the same file, I think. Yeah, this file is the same for both. Maybe it's still off because it shouldn't be happening, maybe. So this should be tiers -1 and then the file name. But the file name should have the name there. So maybe I should add net name here as well. Yeah, that's I should probably do that just to make sure. Gets a little bit big, but I don't think it's a problem. And now it should be correct, I guess. Because now each one's gonna be unique. And I should do that here as well. Oh no, here already has net name. Let's see. I think that those two were the only ones. This works, so I'm gonna open up the other project and I'm gonna copy this just so I don't forget. Because I think this is the best solution that I got so far. Yeah, now they are all separated, which is a good sign. Now I think it's correct. Finally. I think it's not perfect because of the doubling some files, but I think now it works as was intended finally. It's just weird that I'm not getting the tree format, so makes me think that there's still things that are not correct with this. Because I should be getting just the tree. Yeah, but I guess that is the problem with the OS walk stuff. It's just adding extra connections that are unnecessary. You can't have this subfolder in every subfolder. That's probably not what's going on here. It's just making it like this because of the way that the OS walk works. But I don't think it's worth to spend more time, at least for now, trying to, because that's gonna be a more difficult problem to solve. Let me open up the library and see. I think before I do that, I'm gonna copy this into the other project. I think it was this one. No. Yeah, it was this one. Sure. Can't forget to change the name of the file name there. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I had here before, but I think this last version is way better, probably. the way that I was doing before. And here I have to change these names. Just put anything here. Just 3 point down. Yeah, point down, 3 point down. So now back to this. So why is this not working? Are these show the same? Also copy this to here. I think I'll turn the light soon. So let me the debug. So is it getting the folder name? It must be, because this is working. I forgot that. I don't know how to skip this loop. I should probably put 2 breaking points, actually. One here and one here, so I can skip the loop. I just want to see if I'm passing anything to the root nodes. I know what, actually, I'm gonna do that now. Put another point here. I could just put one there, actually. Maybe it's better to do it like this. So I think I can just run to the cursor here. It doesn't work. Wonder if there is a way to skip this loop. X-ray. Step out is not gonna work, I think. Oh, it does. Nice. Oh, so I should be doing this outside here. That's the problem. So yeah, and I should be declaring these outside as well. Of this loop. Yeah, but then trying to think if that's okay, because then I'm gonna accumulate all the nodes for all the folders. Let me see what the if I got any nodes on the root nodes. No. Maybe that's because of the debugger that I'm doing something wrong here. But I think the problem is this. This should be outside of this for loop here. maybe. So I loop through the folders. I think it shouldn't matter because the path, the name is always gonna be different based on the folder name. Then I check for the root node. Based on the title. I think I'm gonna print here. It's probably easier. To see if I'm getting any on the other list. Then I loop through this. Then I connect the nodes on this list. Based on their RDs. So it's not hitting this statement here. So I think I'm gonna print here. Nodes. So there's probably something going wrong with the way that I did the name. This is actually a lot harder than it looks. When I thought about doing this, at first I thought it would be a lot easier, this part, to do. I was actually surprised that nobody thought about doing this before. It seems like it's something that it would be useful, especially depending on what you're trying to do. But maybe it just seems that way and it's actually not that useful. Could be the case as well. And so I think the design is correct. It's just doing this because every file has this subfolder. Well, let me run this again. So what is the title here? Title, Pyvis. Oh, I can't use the title, of course. Maybe if I use ID here. The title is not going to differentiate the first node. I forgot. And now there's a problem because this has to be different. Because I changed there. So just have to see what's the pattern. So I'm doing like this, and here it should be less there. So I'm gonna print this. So what I actually want is oh, it has a space. It's better to do it with string declaration. And then here I should put selected nodes. Now it should work, I guess. So I got the nodes. Let's see if it works on the graph. If it works, I'm gonna search for the Networkx file. Just see what's up with that tests folder. So I think it worked. Because now they're all connected. Ah, nice, it worked. And it just looks like this because of the way that I did the connection there, the loop. I connected them linearly, and not all of them. With the other ones. But I think that's not, we can think about that later. This is what I wanted to do. So Jinja goes first, then connects here, and then here connects here. Nice. Yeah, so I think now I'm going to spend time studying the stuff. Because the next time I'm going to change this, I want to be able to have the extra functionality that I want to put there. So let me go to the Networkx page. Let's see. So there's a folder tests here. There's a test here. Tests, tests. Yeah, so that's why that's happening there. All of them have tests. And this is the test folder outside. This has a test folder too. So I guess it's working actually. The way that it's supposed to. Nice. So now let me think about it. So I wanna do the script visualization. I'm just trying to think which one I'm gonna do. First, I think I can open the Vivax stuff we did there. I think was on Python projects. Script visualizer. No, this is the other one. Live inspect. Module finder. Yeah, it was this one. So I'm gonna open this. And I think it was this one. Thing is, I don't even remember really well. It wasn't this. It was. Maybe it was on this folder. No, this is where the graphs are saved. Yeah, so it was one of the scripts here. I think final file. Yeah. Ever run this? Yeah, it was. I think it was supposed to be this one, but I think I changed stuff here. Yeah, I changed so I could export or import the another one. This should be the one from Vyvx. Jinja2. Mm. So apparently it's a package that this breaks down. But why is not skipping the try accept block? This sucks, not gonna lie. It's probably from because of this import. So on this line, breaks down here. And it tries to do this import lib.import module name. And I think it was the same problem that this script was having with the NumPy stuff. For some reason, it just breaks down. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna use this then because I don't want to spend too much time trying to debug this and make it work. I don't have a lot of time, so I need to select what I'm gonna focus on. So I'm gonna try to do it for the Networkx. Doesn't work as well. Let's see if I got the name correctly. Yeah, Networkx. Just wanna copy the stuff. It's probably not gonna work. Yeah, there's something wrong, not wrong, but that doesn't work with this. Maybe if I just do the level 1, it works. It doesn't work. In some import modules, it just breaks down. Is this just GCD imports? Control B to go to the source of the function. In PyCharm. Maybe I should just research that. Now the question is, should I try to do this? I think I'm gonna risk it. I don't remember if I did. I think I did it with Conda. Let me see. Yeah, because of GraphVis, I think I probably did it with Conda. So that's Conda. I'll try to update this and then try again. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna just try another package. If it doesn't work, then I'm just gonna do the script visualization stuff. Then I'm gonna work both with the script visualization and the tree there to find stuff in the Jinja2 library. I wanna try. I already spent a bunch of time trying to connect the Pyvis library with the Networkx and the Jinja2. So I know the way to go, but I didn't manage to understand how the abstraction is passed on the script for the template to be created. That's where I stopped, I remember. Because it didn't seem to have the link there, the connection anywhere. Of what exactly is happening when the Pyvis passes the objects and the arguments for the Jinja2 template, for the Jinja2 to come up with the stuff that it does. I couldn't figure out a way where I could change the source code so I can add the extra options there that I want. But I know there must be a way, otherwise they wouldn't be able to make it happen. There must be a way. Let's try 2 first. Doesn't work. Try 1. Probably not gonna work. Yeah. Yeah. So fortunately, looks like I'm not gonna be able to use the other graph for this. So I'm gonna try for Pyvis, which probably not gonna work because they're related. And I don't think there's another library that I wanna do besides this tree. Pyvis. Yeah, this markup's safe. Yeah, because it uses Jinja, so makes sense that it doesn't work. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna scratch this script and I'm gonna try to use the other one. The other one I think is gonna work because it doesn't pass, it doesn't do the same thing. It's just the stack trace and not, it's not messing with the part module from Python. Yeah, so now I have to think about a script that I wanna use. To test this stuff. I'm gonna close this. So I'm gonna use the Scholar graph, execution graph, function graph. Maybe this as well. Yeah, I already did this one time. Oh, so maybe I did this one, I think. Yeah, this was the one that I did on stream, maybe. That I was visualizing. So maybe I already have it here. Graph, Scholar. Yeah, because I was using this to investigate the, I remember now, the Jinja2. Before I try to do, I don't know, it's not showing here. Might take a while to load. I think I'll be right back while this loads. Yeah, this looks like it's not gonna load, I think. Or it might take a long ass time to load. I don't know why though. Maybe if I run this again, it works. I'm also gonna take this off here. Maybe that's why it's not loading. Because the last time I ran this, I added the other stuff there. Yeah, so Pyvis, Networkx. Let's try. So it looks like it worked. Yeah, now it should work, I guess. Mm. So what's going on? It was not the CSV file. It's weird because it should be working. Oh, is this list here? No, list name append file. So this is correct. So it must be the names. It's the only explanation. But I don't see how it was working before. And why now it doesn't. Let me do it like this and see. That's so weird. Or maybe I changed the location. Color CSV. Data frame CSV. I don't understand what's going on. So it can't be this. It should be showing at least something in the graph. And here I'm not even activating this. I'm just going directly through the edge data. It does contain stuff. Oh, it's because I'm not changing the other names. So I guess the problem is the filter. Has to be. So I think the easiest way is to just do this. Just see if it's gonna at least show something. But from what I remember, it should be giving me one graph, even with the filter. Because I remember going through this and seeing and following through. So it's weird that now it doesn't seem to be working. Yeah, now at least it's gonna give me a graph. Let's see if different visualizations. Maybe I can make it undirected so it loads faster. So I think the first thing I want to do is add something here below this physics. The second thing I want to do is understand how to capture the nodes and the edges. I think those are the most important. Third thing is the navigation with the keyboard. And fourth thing is to connect different graphs on different pages. How would I do that? And ideally, I want to be able to run the execution of a script and highlight both the execution here and the nodes in the different websites. So highlight which pages that get activated, each files in each folders in the other graph, and the flow of execution on this graph. And then I want to be able to step into the folders whenever I want. And then later on, but then that's only obviously if I can make everything, all of this stuff happen, is to see if I can maybe train some machine learning models or something like that based on these patterns to come up with a skeleton or a framework, something like that. Something like Scrapey does with these projects, where you can put the scrape start project on the shell and it comes up with the files already with the whole skeleton of what the project is going to look like. I think both building that and understanding how it works, it would be probably the best thing to become more efficient in every possible way. Then obviously if I manage to make all this happen, I can use this to just become better at everything else, all the other languages, and then just keep building on top of that. Yeah, I think this issue is low actually. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to take the directed out. Otherwise, it's just choose low. I'm gonna see uh, which libraries are being used in the names there, so I can filter to make it look more simple. And much faster. So obviously I have this frozen stuff. I think I can do, instead of doing by the ones that I want to see, I can just take this frozen out of here. Frozen bootstrap. Compile, new. Thing is, I don't remember if that's is the script that I was thinking about. I don't think it's the script that I'm imagining. So what I'm gonna do is copy. I'm gonna copy this one into there. Just run this one. Oh, I copied twice there. There should be right now. I think this is probably the easiest approach. So now I have the trees.py here. Yeah, now I have to put this. I'm just gonna call it main because it's easier. Just to see what's happening there. There goes main. And now I should be good. I can't forget to change the name of the file. Please. Run this. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Huh. So maybe I just use one of this. I'm gonna use the script visualizer. Oh, I also have to see where it's gonna save this. I think it saves on this directory here. I can just comment this out as well. Yes. But it might be interesting to just see. To see the other graph of this folder. Yeah, that's another thing that I forgot about this. I should use the OS to and make the paths. So don't have to worry about this stuff every time. Which is something that I never do because of habit from the beginning. And I have to change. It's much better to do things with the OS instead of the way that I'm doing here. I think I'm gonna run it like this and see if it's gonna break. Let's see. It's probably gonna break. Yeah, because it doesn't have the path. Not find the path specified. That's script visualizer. So I guess if I take one of these paths here. Yeah, because it has to be a sub path. Just gonna get this one. Hopefully it works now. It's probably gonna break again because it's not gonna find the path to save. No such file directory. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna just erase this where I'm saving. And forget about doing this graph because it doesn't matter. Just wanna see the visualization of the execution. Let's see. And now it should work probably. Yeah, so now it creates the trees here. Close this. Close this. Tree. 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 No such file or directory. Oh, it's trees. So let me delete this. God damn. Obviously, I could make these scripts better, but Don't want to spend on time on that right now. So print stuff here. I guess for some of them, it probably didn't work. Not sure why, but at least it made the graph. So okay, so I'm gonna open one by one. Probably close this. So it goes. Yeah, this is the relationship between the color name and the file name. So it goes from this to this one. It calls itself back. Pyvis and path. And this goes to the options, which is calls itself back. And then it goes through the physics. So it's interesting that it's going to the net. Yeah, but it is going to the network, but from Pyvis, and it never passes through the actual Networkx library. At least from this graph here. I think I'm gonna just close these ones. Execution flow tasks. I want to open this one in case it is very complex. I can filter. Yeah, this was the one with the filter here. So it doesn't seem like it's gonna be very complex, the execution one. Is this the execution? Yeah. It's very interesting. I was expecting to be a lot more complex than this, to be honest. And I don't see. Oh, the problem is not using Jinja. Yeah, so I might need to just save actually. Yeah, that was stupid of me of not saving. I think I'm gonna change the script then. Because the part that activates the Jinja script is when it saves the graph. So maybe I can just save one time. It's gonna be passing here, so I'm gonna save it here. I think I can put on this folder. I can, again, I just go here, and just copy this stuff. I'm writing this. And I think let me see the indentation there. And so it's, I don't know what I did here, but So it's the same indentation of the if connect. If lane connect. Yeah. I'll do this. So let me see. Yeah, now we go back to the visualizer. Run this. Oh, this one. Now it should work. Invalid type. So it should probably be not HTML here. Let's see if that's correct. Yeah. Maybe now. That's interesting. This is the first time I get something like this. Data frame is not getting the things with the same length. I don't understand why. Did create the graph though. So what's going on here? They should be all the same length. Doesn't make sense. Function name, func name this. Maybe if I just take this out. swear I was using something before to study this. The thing is, I don't want to spend a bunch of time just to get the graph here. So I might just keep this and use the other one. Because I want to spend more time now exploring, actually exploring the libraries and trying to see what's up. It's really hot here where I live. Oh, I think this was this one. It's probably this one. Yeah, Networkx. So I think just scratch this tree from here. Put color here again. So Networkx. Networkx. Let's see if it has Jinja2. It's probably one of these, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Jinja2. Pyvis. Yeah, so I don't know what's up with this one. I guess I'm just gonna use this one here. So now the problem is that I want to use the two monitors here. Because I have both of these graphs. So I think I'm gonna close this. And I'm gonna try to divide, but obviously not ideal. So I'm gonna open up the Pyvis library. Close this, and explore this. So I know the options. It has some stuff. The Networkx also, and that's the issue of doing it like this. It's just a lot worse to see it. So obviously it starts on the init. I think whenever it has this module here, I remember that I think it's just loading. It's not actually running something. Yeah, it's a different type of thing. And then when it has just a name, it's the function. So it uses this node, which is obviously should create a node. The Pyvis node py file. So I have Pyvis node here. Then from this goes to the edge, but has module, so I'm not gonna look. Now it activates the edge. So I guess this is just the initialization of the nodes. So it creates self.options equals opts. Self.options ID equals NID. Self.options label. So I think it's hard for me to understand what exactly is the self.options because it's adding a bunch of properties to this, but I'm not sure if it's a list or if it's a dictionary. So I'm going to skip this one because it has module physics. Which is the physical model for the graph. So it's activating this class with an object. So I guess it's probably passing the nodes here and the edges. Engine chosen false. Def get item. Return self.dict.item. Then activates the class for the models. Yeah, these are all types of models there. They can change the graph. These ones here. This is also something I don't really get. What exactly is this parameters here? Your partial model assumes nodes have a simplified field around them. Versus linear decreases from 1. I guess I get lost on this class inheritance stuff because it's not explicit in the code, but when you're executing the script, it's gonna change. It's gonna bring information from one file to the other one through this. At least that's the only conclusion I can make based on the stuff I've seen so far. Because the connection has to be somewhere. It's just so stabilization, then also this is probably the class that initiates all the models. This makes the network stabilize on load using default settings. Stabilize on load. So this is interesting. Update interval. Fit true. It's also interesting that there are 2 units here, which I've never seen before. And I guess this is from outside scope. Yeah, this is the need for the stabilization. And this is the need for the physics probably, because it's not declared here. So physics is the parent class of all these classes. I guess. This is the Untitled physics. Self.stabilization uses this stuff here. Enable equal true, iterations 1000. I guess this is all this stuff, all for the Jinja2 template. Update interval, I assume, is something for the set timeout function or something like that for the site on the front end. Yeah, so now it's going to edge options on the options file. Edge options. Options. So this was all the physics stuff. Then when it calls stabilization, it calls this. Maybe I should go back to the physics and try to think about how is the connection here happening. That's the most difficult part because there is not explicit here. And just with the name of the functions is not clear. And I think the only way to capture that would be to redo the set trace stuff so I can capture more information. So I think I might do that actually. Because I think that's the most difficult part of understanding. It's what is being passed explicitly. So I think the question is how to keep track of the objects in different stack frames. How to keep track of the arguments of the classes and functions. Because I assume it's something to do with this here. And this get item stuff. Or maybe this is just continuing the main script line and doesn't have necessarily a connection with the this right here is not a connection, it's just that it did this, initialized all this stuff, and then went back to the main file. But then I feel like it should be, maybe it doesn't show up here. Maybe it just show up, it goes back to the other file, to the main one, but it doesn't show up here. It just shows up the edge options one. This is where the construction of the edges options takes place. So for the edges, smoothness can be switched through this object. This is where the construction of the edges options takes place so far. The edge smoothness can be switched through this object, as well as the edge colors inheritance. Yeah, so smooth and color, which is this one. Both of this. Then interaction. Also, this is the options here. Because you can turn this on when you're using the show buttons and it shows up here. Yeah, the interaction here. So I guess there is the default ones. And that was another question that I was having and I couldn't understand. Which is how exactly, because here there are only 3 things that are being initialized. But here there are multiple things, multiple options. And I couldn't find a way to understand where the other options coming from. But I guess it's probably, I assume at least right now, it's probably from the Jinja template. Or it it's from the Networkx, but I also couldn't find the connection between the Pyvis and the Networkx. And this walk here is actually something that I did. I added a function to the options file. And now after that, after I did this script, I just erased the function. But this was one that I did. It's not a part of the library, the standard library. Used for all user interactions with the network. Handles mouse and touch events as well as the navigation buttons and the pop-ups. How the fuck does that? Configure, handles the HTML parts of the canvas and generates interactive options editor with filtering. Handles the HTML part of the canvas and generates an interactive option editor with filtering. So this is the thing that generates the canvas here. So if filter is the thing you put on show buttons so that you select which ones are gonna show up here. But it's difficult to understand because it's just initializing this. This get item here that I couldn't understand. I guess it's getting the items from this object that is being passed. Self dictionary item. And that's my best estimate there. Act as the camera that looks on the canvas, does animation zooming and focusing. Random scene equals random scene. Now I was gonna call hierarchical. Then it goes to the options. Which I guess is this one. Yeah, the main question I have is, what is this object being passed here? Maybe I should do that now, I think. Oh, and it should have the script there. The color script. No, that I'm realizing that now. So I think I might do that actually. Because that's the most difficult part. And I think that if I could do that, then it would actually allow me to understand where is the connection there, where it's coming from. Because here explicitly, it looks like there is no way to tell. Yeah, it goes from this one to the options, and then goes directly through the utils, and then initialize the Jinja, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Represents the global options of the network. These objects consists of individual sub-objects that map to a Vue.js module of configure layout, interaction, physics, edges. So global options of the network. The JSON representation of this object is directly passed into the Vue.js framework. So the JSON representation is passed. So I guess it creates all the other stuff first, initializes, then passes here probably through this, and then it sends this to the Jinja directly as a JSON in JSON format. So it's both this get item, which I don't understand, and the scope there. Yeah, in the initialization is gonna create the layout, interaction configure, which was the stuff that was loaded before. Dev sats. This method. So the weird thing is that this is not showing up anything else here. Only the utils. But maybe it's not activating the Jinja now, it's just loading the modules or something like that. And then, but then activates here this cache thing. And then goes to Jinja stuff. Which I remember I briefly looked at in the past. And it goes to this, and then here is gonna, I think here is the Networkx. Yeah, so first goes through Pyvis. Pyvis probably creates the initial stuff, then activates Jinja. Then from Jinja goes through Networkx. This method should accept a JSON string and replace its internal options structure, the given argument after parsing it. Practice, this method should be called after using the browser to experiment with different physics and layout options. Using the generated JSON options structure that is spit out from the front end to serve as input to this method as a string. So they're talking about this thing here. So you can use this as an argument when you're gonna build the graph. New options, so that the default is gonna be the configurations of past you adjusted here. Next time you load the graph. Options equals new options, dollar replace, new line with empty, and then replace spaces. So guys, it's just parsing this stuff. It's parsing this probably. Yeah, new options here. So we're gonna pass this as a string, JSON string, then it's gonna parse it through these options. Then it's gonna be the brackets, the first line. Yeah, after the this probably. JSON downloads. Then here to JSON. Yeah, so this is the biggest challenge here, I think. I think there's no way about it. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to put my information on the set trace stuff. So I can capture. So the main question is how to visualize, to keep track of arguments and past variables. And It's gonna be hard to find. Python. I guess I'll look at that off stream, probably. So from this it goes to the utils. Just probably running this function here. Or maybe loading. And then it goes through the Jinja stuff. So assert length name dot split to see if there is more valid directory. And to see if the extension is HTML. So this is from Jinja. Then BC cache. BC cache. I'm gonna close these ones. It's dumping on Pico. Using Pico to dump some stuff. The optional bytecode cache system is useful if you have very complex template situations and the compilation of all those templates slows down your application too much. Situations where this is useful are often forking web applications that are initialized on the first request. Magic bytes to identify Jinja bytecode cache files. Contains Python major and minor versions to avoid loading incompatible bytecode. Your project upgrades its Python version. So let's see, it goes from this to compat. Different files. Buckets are used to store the bytecode for one template. It's created and initialized by the so buckets are used to store the bytecode for one template. So this is storing the bytecode. It's created and initialized by the bytecode cache and passed to the loading functions. The buckets get an internal checksum from the cache assigned and use this to automatically reject outdated cache material. Individual bytecode cache subclasses don't have to care about cache invalidation. So it creates an environment with this key checksum, then resets. I think what I should do actually now, I should probably do this part off stream because it's gonna be better to use the two monitors. And I should probably figure out now how to do the other stuff so I can get more information. I think what I'm gonna do is just test what happens if I put all the information that's available there in the stack frame. And then I can play around with that. That's probably what I'm gonna do. Because I wanna see exactly, I wanna see if I can capture this thing here. Is the most important part. I wanna capture only what's not implicit in the code. Yeah, that's the way that is gonna be the most useful. Because then I can see I can make the connections then. So what is not explicit in the codes is the objects that are being passed. So variables, arguments. Variables are usually explicit unless, yeah, the variables are going to be explicit unless they are passed somewhere else. So I think only arguments probably the implicit things. Yeah, I think arguments and variables, because if you have a list and then you append something to that list later on, it's easy to forget that you changed that variable. So it's probably variables and arguments. I have to see if there's a way to capture them with this stack frame. And then if I can't do that, then I can just try it without that stuff and just with the stuff that I have now. Because I'm not sure if there's going to be a way to capture that only by using the set trace thing. Other stuff might be needed for that. So I think I'm gonna do that now. There's no point in avoiding that. And if I'm able to do that, then I think it's gonna be a lot more helpful. So let me see first if I have the script here. And some scripts. Oh, maybe I deleted it. Oh, maybe I just used this file instead. I think I used one of these files to create the... Yeah, that's what I did. So that's probably what I'm gonna do now. I can just pass here. I'm gonna pass one of these through here. And I'm gonna pass this file to the visualizer. Just trying to think about which one. That should be something that is not so complex. There's gonna be too much information there. It's too hot here. I think this one is fine, probably. I'm gonna use this one. So don't waste a bunch of time selecting. It's simple. So now I'm gonna go through this visualizer. Also gonna wrap this into a script because I don't want the import module to be activated because it's gonna crawl the visualization more. Okay, so now I'm gonna import this file. .may. And now I'm gonna go to the inspection documentation. I should mark that for, or I always forget. Maybe I did in the previous time. That I was trying the dude. No, I didn't. I'm gonna save this just in case I remember. I forget again. So now let me see. So I think I'm gonna put this here again. So the frame is gonna be the frame. Code gonna frame equals. So I'm using, I don't know, here I'm using the frame again. I think I'm just gonna do everything. Maybe I should do another file actually. I'm gonna copy this one and then I'm gonna erase all this stuff and I think I'm gonna get all the information that I can from here. So if I'm not mistaken, the set trace allows me to get both the frame and the code objects and probably the return, something like that. Maybe I should open up that again. Just see. This true. Here I'm gonna put color graph. Just so I don't forget. Now, so for each one, I'm gonna have to put a new list here. I think you can erase this. I'm just gonna get everything that is possible to get there. What can you capture with CSS trace Python? Get the trace function as by set trace. Set the system trace function, which allows you to implement a Python source code debugger in Python. The function is thread specific for a debugger to support multiple threads. You must register a trace function using set trace for each thread being debugged or use threading set trace. Trace functions should have three arguments: frame, event, and arg. Frame is the current stack frame. Event is a string, call, line, return exception, or OP code. Arg depends on the event type. I think I'm gonna write this down here. Yes, I have to use this instead. So frame, stack frame, event, call, line, return, exception, OP codes. This function is invoked with events such a call. Whenever a new local scope is entered, should return a reference to a local trace function should be used for the new scope, or none if the scope shouldn't be traced. The local trace function should return a reference to itself, or to another function for further tracing in that scope, or none should return off tracing in that scope. If there is any error occurred in the trace function, it will be unset, just like set trace none is called. The events have the following meaning: call, a function is called, or some other code block entered. Definition of events. Call. A function is called, or some other code block entered. Global trace function is called, arg is none. The return value specifies the local trace function. I think I'm just gonna copy I don't need to put this definition here. Let's put events. Line. Interpreter is about to execute a new line of code or re-execute the condition of a loop. I'm gonna take these headphones for a while. It's too hot to keep them. Interpreter is about to execute a new line of code or re-execute the condition of a loop. Local trace function is called, arg is none. The local function is called, arg is none. The new trace function. So the return value specifies the new local trace function. The interpreter is about to execute a new line of code or re-execute the condition of a loop. Local trace function is called, arg is none. The return value specifies the new local trace function. See objects no tab notes next for a detailed explanation of how this works. Now I'm not sure. Maybe I should just Google or DuckDuckGo. Yeah, the problem is not gonna be very easy to find. Maybe it's this thing. I don't think I'm gonna read this now. Always when you call the line trace function when the above test fails. Consider this call. Which compiles to this. If A is false, execution will jump to the pop block instruction that offset in the call L no tab will claim the execution has moved to line 4, which is wrong. So it's pretty much talking about the compilation stuff, which makes sense because that's what's going on. So maybe it's this file here that is referring to there. I was hoping that there would be a simpler explanation in the official documentation. So for line events may be disabled for a frame by setting f trace lines to false on that frame. Return a function or other code block. A function or other code block is about to return. The local trace function is called. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get all of this stuff on the CSV, and then I'm gonna make the conditions based on true, same way that I was doing before with flag variables, and then I'm gonna test a bunch of them out to see what kinds of graphs I get based on each thing. See if I can capture that. The most important thing is the arguments, as I was saying, is I want to capture everything that is invisible explicitly. If I look explicitly in the file, and I want to remove everything that I can just look at the files and see. That would be the ideal scenario, I think. So both with the file's name have to be there so I know where to go, and then the description of what's being passed from one file to the next. Function or other code block is about to return. The local trace function is called. So I think, yeah, I'm on this. Arg is the value that will be returned. Will be returned. So I guess that's what I'm gonna have to use here. I make this. I remember the first time I was trying to do this. I think I tried some stuff like this, but it didn't work. It wasn't working for some reason. So maybe now I can manage to figure out how to do it. Now that I know more of what I want, actually. Arg is the value that will be returned, or none if the event is caused by an exception being raised. Raise functions return value is which makes sense. Exception. And Maybe I should. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. No. Just so I remember that I have to do it. No. Just minor thing. I don't think it matters. I should put it there, but I'm just typing here next time so I don't have to go back to the site and see. Local trace function is called. Yeah, I think this one is the least useful one. Arg is a tuple, exception, value, traceback. And the other thing is that, yeah, this is talking about the events, but it's not talking about how to capture them. I think that was the issue I was having, because if I can put here if event equals call or different than call, then return. I can put like this, but then I'm using the frame to get the information. So this is just referencing. I think that was the problem I was having before. Because yeah, okay, the arg is gonna be what's passed in this return, but then how do I access that? If it's in the event and not the thing itself. That's the issue. Sure. The return value specifies new local trace function. The code, the interpreter is about to execute new OP codes. I think this one I know how to get information from, but the other ones probably not. This one. Bytecodes and implementation detail of the CPython interpreter. No guarantees are made but that bytecode will not be added, removed, or changed between versions of Python. Use of this module should not be considered to work across Python VMs or Python releases. So the OBS is connected, and it doesn't matter. It's still recording. So I think I'm gonna close this file. Oh, no. Because I'm probably not gonna spend time reading this. I just need to focus on getting the information first. Then I worry about other stuff. The local trace function is called arg is none. The return value specifies local trace function. Pair of code events are not emitted by default. They must be explicitly requested by setting ftrace opcodes to true on the frame. So how do I do that? The interpreter is about to execute local trace functions call. Where opcode events are not emitted by default. They must be explicitly requested by setting f trace opcodes to true on the frame. But that is inside of the thing or when I call the set trace. I think the best way to figure it out is to just pass it here. goes true. Yeah, so apparently it doesn't work. Unexpected error. So that should be inside. So let me see if it's gonna give me. So it seems to work, but I'm not sure if that's how you do it. Not emitted by default, it must be exclusively requested by setting ftrace opcodes through on the front. Yeah, maybe it's like this, but I'm not sure. Yeah, probably is because yeah, this is being activated, and then it's gonna whatever comes next is gonna be fitting this stuff. Note that as an exception is propagated down the chain of colors, an exception events generated at each level. For more fine-grained usage, it's possible to set a trace function by assigning frame.fTrace equals trace function explicitly. Also set a trace function by assigning frame.fTrace equals trace function, rather than relying on it being set indirectly via the return value from an already installed trace function. It is also required for activating the trace function on the current frame, which set trace doesn't do. This is also required for activating the trace function on the current frame. Note that in order for this to work, a global tracing function must have been installed with set trace in order to enable the runtime tracing machinery. But it doesn't need to be the same tracing function. E.g., it could be a low overhead tracing function that simply returns none to disable itself immediately on each frame. Yeah, so this part is confusing and don't understand really well. It's probably because you don't understand what's happening behind the scenes very well. More information on code and frame objects refer to the standard type hierarchy. Below is a list of the types that are built into Python. Extension modules written in C, Java, or other languages, depending on the implementation, can define additional types. Future versions of Python may add types to the type hierarchy. Some of the type descriptions below contain graph listing special attributes. These are attributes that provide access to the implementation that are not intended for general use. The definition may change in the future. This type has a single blah blah blah. For more fine-grained usage, I think I read that. For more information on code and frame objects, refer to the standard, the prior cases, and auditing event sees set trace with no arguments. See Python implementation detail. The set trace function is intended only for implementing debuggers, profilers, coverage tools, and the like. Its behavior is part of the implementation platform rather than part of the language definition. Thus may not be available in all Python implementations. Changed in version 3.7, opcode event type added, ftrace lines and ftrace opcodes attributes added to frames. Set async gen hooks, substitute optional. This is other stuff. Yeah, so this is the problem with this thing is that it talks about the events, but it doesn't talk about how to extract stuff from them. So I guess I have to go to the inspect thing. No. And then I can use that table of the inspect to see if I can separate the events. Should know how to get each thing that I want from there. If event different than call. Sure. Yeah, so obviously I'm gonna take this off here. I wanna extract everything that I can from each frame that is possible through, and then I'll see on the CSV what types of relationships are gonna be better to visualize. I think I'm gonna work on this off stream actually because this stream is disconnecting. It's probably my internet, but and I think I spent a bunch of time here already. So I think the plan is that I'm gonna do this, extract more information from this frame. Once I have that, then I'm gonna go back. My main objective now is to figure out a way to get the information that is not explicit in the files into the visualization stuff, so I can create the connections between files on the things that I can't directly see, and then hopefully I can use that to understand what's being passed around as I run the script to create the graphs, so I know what parts of the source code I'm gonna create functions, so I can change the functionality of the site and add the stuff that I want to add. But if I see that this starts to take very long to do, then I might give up on this and study scraping instead, because yeah, or study other stuff, Django and other stuff like that, because I need to build websites and a portfolio. So I guess we'll see. It's gonna depend on how difficult it is, obviously. But I feel like I'm learning a lot through this process, definitely, which is already a bonus, plus side of doing this. And I don't think I'm gonna read this file actually. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna stop here now. See how long I stayed here. Oh, I can't see because it's disconnected. Yeah, but anyway, I'm probably gonna come back tomorrow or the day after. So see you.